Continuing with this volume of selected letters written by D.H. Lawrence to various friends and correspondents across the course of his life. Letter 61 to Edward Marsh, Chapel Farm Cottage, Hermitage, near Newbury, Berks, 10 May 1919. Dear Eddie, your letter has come this morning with the £20 from Rupert. Queer to receive money from the dead, as it were out of the dark sky. I have a great belief in the dead, in Rupert dead. He fights with one, I know. That is why I hate the Oliver Lodge spiritualism, hotel bills and collar studs. The passionate dead act within and with us, not like messenger boys and hotel porters. Of the dead who really live, whose presence we know, we hardly care to speak. We know their hush, isn't it so? Thank you for thinking of me. Yes, I am happier now the war is fought with the soul and not with filthy guns. I'll send an inscribed copy of the new poems. Shall I send Look also? Yours, D.H. Lawrence. Letter 62 to Lady Cynthia Asquith. Albergo delle Parme, Lerici, Golfo della Spezia, 8th November 1919. Well, I've got so far. Travelling now is the devil if you can't afford a sleeper. The train sits half the time to hatch out her ideas for the next kilometre. Paris is a nasty city, and the French are not sympathetic to me. I stayed 2 nights on the way with rich English people. OBM or OB something, parvenu, etc. Great luxury. Rather nice people, really. But my stomach, it has a bad habit of turning a complete somersault when it finds itself in the wrong element, like a dolphin in the air. The old knight and I had a sincere, half-mocking argument, he for security and bank balance and power, and I for naked liberty. In the end, he rested safe on his bank balance, I in my nakedness. We hated each other, but with respect. But c'est lui qui mourra. He is going to die, moi non. He knows that, the impotent old wolf, so he is ready in one half to murder me. I don't want to murder him, merely leave him to his death. I couldn't get further than this yesterday. Oh, trains! The sea is marvellous. Yesterday a blazing, blazing sun, a lapping Mediterranean, bellezza. The south, the south, the south. Let me go south. I must go south. Why don't we go to the Pacific? Why don't we? Is it only snipe and pop guns detain us, or something more? Italy is still gay. Does all her weeping in the press, takes her politics with her wine, and enjoys them. Great excitement over the elections, but lively and amused excitement, nothing tragic or serious. I'm going to Florence tomorrow. You can write me care of Thomas Cook & Son, Via Tornabuoni, Florence, or you can wait for another letter with an address. For your sleeplessness, move. There is nothing like it, but move away from the old trimmings. Move away. The sea is under the window. The sea. God, what wouldn't I give to sail far off on it, south. What wouldn't I give to be off to Nukuhera or Noumea? Bello, bello il mare, the sea. Let us go. D.H.L. Letter 63 to W.E. and S.A. Hopkin. Palazzo Ferraro, Capri, Naples, 9 January 1920. My dear Sally and Willie, today came the hanky and letters from Florence after so long a time, but we have been straggling about, to Rome, to the wilds among the Apennines south of Rome, then here. The hanky is very lovely with its green sheen through the red. Reminds me a good deal of grass going dark under a heavy crimson sunset. The socialist Romanian from next door, who would please Willie, save that his Italian is of a Romanian and rather difficult brand brought in the post, and with true socialistic communism must at once carefully fold the hanky and try it around his neck, looking very much pleased with himself and cocking his black eyebrows. But I did not let him appropriate it. Frida came down to Florence about a month ago, a bit thinner for her vegetarianism, but very well. Had enjoyed Baden-Baden. Everything is very short here. No fat, no milk, practically no meat, no coal. I must have some things sent from England. The French seem really foul, and some of these trials by the Allies of condemned German war officials hideously unjust and inquisitorial. Oh, Lord, the filthy world. Florence was so nice, its genuine culture still creating a certain perfection in the town. Rome was tawdry and so crowded, I hated it. In Pisinisco we got right into the wilds, where the ass lived on the doorstep and strolled through the hall, and the cock came to crow on the bent iron washstand. Quite a big, fine-looking house. But lo and behold, one great room was a wine press, another a coin and oil chamber, and as you went upstairs, half the upstairs was open, a beautiful barn full of maize cobs, very yellow and warm-looking. The kitchen, a vaulted cave, had never been cleaned since the house was built. One ate one's meals on its settle in front of the great chimney, where the pots swung on the hooks and the green wood sputtered. No one dreamed of a table, let alone a tablecloth. One blew up the fire with a long, ancient iron tube, with a winged foot to stand in the ashes, and this tube was handed from person to person in the process of blowing up a blaze. Hygienics not yet imagined. Add to this, that all around circled the most brilliant snowy mountain peaks, glittering like hell, that away below, on our oak scrub hills, the air had a tang of ice, while the wild river with its great white bed of boulders rushed, pale and fizzy from the ice, that there was no road to the house, but everything had to be piled on the ass and forded over the river, that the nearest shop was 1.5 hours away, the nearest railway 15 miles of terrific mountain road, and that on the Saturday before Christmas it snowed all day long. And you have it. We fled here. We got on the ship, a little iron tub of a steamer, takes 4 hours to Capri. Of course the sea rose. We got to Capri, where there is no landing stage, in the darkness about 8 at night, after 5 hours wallowing. The sea so high that when a boat came to take us off, it almost hopped onto our deck, and then fell back into an abysmal gulf of darkness, amid yells unparalleled almost even in Italy. In terror, half swamped, it turned for shore, leaving us rolling with a lot of spewing Italians. We had to put back to mainland and roll at anchor in the shelter of Sorrento till morning, whence once more we pushed across to Capri as the magnificent red dawn came up over the Mediterranean, and like sacks we were hurled into the curvetting boats. However, here we are, high in this old palace, with 2 great rooms, 3 balconies, and a kitchen above, and an enormous flat roof, one of the most wonderful places in the world. Ischia, Naples, Vesuvius slowly smoking to the north, the wide sea to the west, the great rock of our Monte Solano in front, rocks in the Gulf of Salerno south. Below us, all the tiny jungle of Capri town. It is about as big as Eastwood, just from the church to Princess Street. Oh, less than that, very tight and tiny. Below is the piazza, the little square where all the island life throbs. Across the little gulf of the street by the end balcony is the comical whitewashed cathedral. The island here is about 1.5 miles wide. We're on the very next steep round ridge of the hill. Altogether, Capri is about 4 miles by 2 miles, but really almost mountainous, sheer precipices above us even here. There are heaps of cosmopolitan dwellers, English, American, Russian by the dozen, Dutch, German, Dane, everybody on this tiny spot. Compton Mackenzie has a nice villa here, and so does the semi-romantic, but I like him, he's a good sort. Also we found Mary Cannon, who was Barry's wife. Also Brett Young, a novelist with wife, and lots of other people if we cared to know about them. But I prefer the Italians. Italy is expensive, but works out with the high exchange about equal to England. It is warm. We've had 2 fires only, just 2 evenings. We're thinking of starting to bathe now in the sea, which is very beautiful. There is a real Italian shop behind Mecklenburg Square where you can get good, or at least real oil. But I forget the street. If I can get a sound vessel to send it in, I'll send you some from here. I'll see about it. My dear Willie, I thought Ada had sent those library books back long ago. I shall write her. I do wish you could come out here to see us. Couldn't you manage it? It would only cost the fare. Thomas Cook, Ludgate's son, EC4, will do all your passport business and tell you everything if you write them. Why not plunge? Frida sends her love with mine. DHL. Letter 64 to Lady Cynthia Asquith. Fontana Vecchia, Taormina, Messina, 7th May 1920. Had your letter the other day. Glad you are well and gay. Fun if you came to Taormina this summer. But August and September are supposed to be monstrous hot. But perhaps you like heat. Anyhow, 2 hotels will be open, Bristol and San Domenico, and they'll give you pension at San Domenico, the swellest place, for 40 francs a day, which is 10 shillings. The Bristol is only about 26 or 28 francs. We in our Fontana Vecchia are about 10 minutes out of town, lovely and cool. We've had some sweltering days already, but our house with its terraces doesn't get too hot. So many green leaves. Most of the foreigners have gone already. The Taorminese are lapsing into a languor and a sloth. I believe Sicily has always, since Adam, been run by a foreign incoming aristocracy. Phoenician, Greek, Arab, Norman, Spanish, Italian. Now it is people in hotels and such stray fish as me. They, the natives, verily droop and fade out without us, though they hate us when the exchange is too high. It is very dry here, all the roses out and drying up, all the grass cut, the earth brown. There is a lot of land, peasant land, to this house. I have just been down in the valley by the cisterns, in a lemon grove that smells very sweet, getting summer nespoli. Nespoli look like apricots and taste a bit like them, but they're pear-shaped. They're a sort of medlar. Wish you had some. They are delicious, and we've got treefuls. The sea is pale and shimmery today. The prickly pears are in yellow blossom. I've actually finished my new novel, The Lost Girl. Not morally lost, I assure you. That bee in my bonnet, which you mention, and which I presume means sex, buzzes not over loud. I think The Lost Girl is quite passable, from Moody's point of view. She's being typed in Rome at the moment, which is going to cost me the monstrous figure of 1,000 francs. If the exchange goes right down, I'm done. Meanwhile, Secker is actually doing Women in Love and The Rainbow. That is, he is sending Women in Love to press at once, so he says, and The Rainbow to follow almost immediately if all goes well. Of course, he's rather in a funk, fearing the censor. I wish someone could hold his hand while he gets the thing through. If there's any legal proceeding, I shall have to pay for it. Lord, the world is a paltry place. The Great War has made cowards of us all, if it was possible. However, we'll hope for the best and devil take the hindmost. Let's hope my lost girl will be treasure trove to me. Meanwhile, life at Fontana Vecchia is very easy, indolent, and devil may care. Did you ever hear of a Duca di Bronte? Mr. Nelson Hood, descendant of Lord Nelson, Horatio, whom the Neapolitans made Duca di Bronte because he hanged a few of them. Well, Bronte is just under Etna, and this Mr. Nelson Hood has a place there, his ducal estate. We went to see him. Rather wonderful place. But perhaps you know him. Tell me, where do dukedoms lie, or in the head, or in the eye? No, that's wrong. Tell me, where are dukedoms bred, or in the eye, or in the head? If I was Duca de Bronte, I'd be tyrant of Sicily. High time there was another Hierro. But, of course, money maketh a man, even if he was a monkey to start with. How are you? Frida greets you. Salute your husband from me. D. H. Lawrence. Letter 65. To Eleanor Fargen. Fontana Vecchia, Taormina, Sicilia, 20 January 1921. Dear Eleanor, well, perhaps you'll be glad you haven't come to Sicily. It thunders and lightens for 24 hours, and hailstorms continually, till there is hail ice thick everywhere, and it is deadly cold and horrid. Meanwhile, the almond blossom is almost full out. A sea of blossom would be, if it weren't shattered. I should like to talk to you, but feel myself shut up, and I can't come unshut just now. I don't like it. We made a dash to Sardinia, liking the island very much, but it isn't a place to live in. No point in living there. A stray corner of Italy, rather difficult materially to live in. I have said I will keep this house on another year, but I really don't believe I shall come back for another winter. The south is so lifeless. There's 10 times more go in Tuscany. If I knew how to, I'd really join myself to the revolutionary socialists right now. I think the time has come for a real struggle. That's the only thing I care for, the death struggle. I don't care for politics. But I know there must and should be a deadly revolution very soon, and I would take part in it if I knew how. Ask R what book she means, The Moose. But that's disappeared with Chapel Farm Cottage. I enclose 10 francs for those stamps. I hope it is enough. Tell me. Let's hope we meet when something is doing. D. H. L. Letter 66 to Catherine Carswell. Via Alpensee, Thumersbach, Zell am See bei Salzburg, Austria, 3 August 1921. My dear Catherine, I have been waiting to see whether I could really stay on here. You know we are with Frida's younger sister Johanna, her husband, son and daughter. The villa is on the edge of the lake. We bathe and boat and go excursions into the mountains. The snow isn't far. And the Schreiberhofens are really very nice with us. And yet I feel I can't breathe. Everything is free and perfectly easy, and still I feel I can't breathe. Perhaps it is one can't live with people anymore, en ménage. Anyhow, there it is. Frida loves it and is quite bitter that I say I want to go away. But there it is. I do. There is a very nice flat we can have in Florence, for not very much. Only this terrific heat. When is it going to end? But anyhow, I shall leave here about 12th August. If it keeps so hot, I shall stay somewhere near Meran for a while, and perhaps look around and see if I might like to live there. I don't much want to go back to Taormina again. If the weather breaks and it rains, I shall go to Florence. We should see you there anyway. We'll write more about that. It is quite beautiful here. There is a very pleasant, largish, peasant hotel which you would like. Lerninshof, Turmesbach, Zell am See. It is on this side the lake, across from Zell, and you eat à la carte, which is much more satisfactory in this part of the world. The ordinary, inexpensive hotel here costs 600 kroner a day, mounts up to about 700. You can buy almost anything with enough kroner. But the shops are empty, the land financially and commercially just ruined. There is very good white bread, but the food is monotonous. Still, you'd never know you were in a ruined land. The Austrians are as amiable as ever. Travelling is cheap and quite easy. And the people honest and pleasant. September is a lovely month too here. But when I've stayed out my month, I feel I shall have to go. I hope Don didn't mind my asking him to get the passport forms and fill up his part. Frida's passport is so full, I don't know how she's going to get into Italy. And both the passes expire end of September. We must get new ones in Rome. I was very glad to hear the book was done. She'll be interested to see it. You will probably now get into the real swing for writing. I shall let you know my movements. We might even meet in Meran or Bozen. That is Italy now, but full Tyrol. It is never too hot here, but it must be pretty bad in town. Au revoir. D. H. Lawrence. Letter 67 to Mrs. R. P. RMS Osterley, Wednesday, 8 March 1922. My dear Rosalind, here we are on the ship, 10 days at sea. It is rather lovely, perfect weather all the time. Ship steady as can be, enough wind now to keep it cool. We went on shore at Port Said, and it's still like the Arabian Nights, spite of all. Then I loved coming through the Suez Canal, 5 miles an hour, takes 18 hours. You see the desert, the sand hills, the low palm trees, Arabs with camels working at the side. I like it so much. Now we are in the Arabian Sea, and expect to come to Colombo on Monday morning, 15 days voyage. The ship is so pleasant, only about half full or less, so plenty of room. We have come second class, and it is perfectly comfortable and nice. Couldn't want anything better. Alas, it cost £140 for the 2 of us, but I had to get out of Europe. In Ceylon we stay with friends. There are children on board, having the time of their lives. I am translating Verga's Mastro de Gesualdo to pass the time. By the way, I should be so glad if you would sometime send me an old Italian novel or book that you have done with, if it is interesting. I should like to go on reading Italian. The people on board are mostly simple Australians. I believe Australia is a good country full of life and energy. I believe that is the country for you if you had anything specific in mind. If we don't want to go on living in Ceylon, I shall go to Australia if we can manage it. I ordered you sea and Sardinia and tortoises. I hope you will get them, the former from England, secca, the latter from America, which takes a long time. Being at sea is so queer. It sort of dissolves for the time being all the connections with the land, and one feels a bit like a seabird, must one feel. It is my opinion that once beyond the Red Sea, one does not feel any more that tension and pressure one suffers from in England, in Europe altogether, even in America, I believe, perhaps worse there. I feel so glad I have come out, but don't know how the money is going to behave. Can't help it. Excuse me. Write and tell me all that happens. Ardnere, Lakeview Estate, Candy, Ceylon. It seems difficult in this world to get a new start, so much easier to make more ends. F sends many greetings. She is a bit dazed by the sea. Letter 68. This one to Lady Cynthia Asquith. RMS Orsova to Fremantle. We get there Thursday, Sunday, 30th April 1922. Here we are on a ship again, somewhere in a very big blue choppy sea with flying fishes sprinting out of the waves like winged drops, and a Catholic Spanish priest playing Chopin at the piano. Very well. And the boat gently rolling. I didn't like Ceylon. At least I liked looking at it, but not to live in. The East is not for me, the sensuous, spiritual voluptuousness, the curious sensitiveness of the naked people, their black, bottomless, hopeless eyes, and the heads of elephants and buffaloes poking out of primeval mud. The queer noise of tall, metallic palm trees. Although the tropics have something of the world before the flood, hot, dark mud and the life inherent in it makes me feel rather sick. But wonderful to have known. We saw at the lonely little glum white fish he was sitting up there at the Temple of the Tooth, with his chin on his hands, gazing blankly down on all the swirl of the East, like a sort of Narcissus, waiting to commit black suicide. The Perahera, wonderful, midnight, huge elephants, great flares of coconut torches, princes like peg-tops swathed round and round with muslin, and then tom-toms and savage music and devil dancers, phase after phase, and that lonely little white fish up aloft, and the black eyes and black bright sweating bodies of the naked dancers under the torches, and the clanging of great mud-born elephants roaring past, made an enormous impression on me. A glimpse into the world before the flood. I can't quite get back into history. The soft, moist, elephantine prehistoric has sort of swamped in over my known world, and on one drifts. But you said, not about India, but about us. No, I'm not angry, no more of my tirades. The sea seems so big, and the world of elephants and buffaloes seems such a vast twilight. And by sheer or mere proximity with the dark Singalese, one feels the vastness of the bloodstream, so dark and hot, and from so far off. What does life in particular matter? Why should one care? One doesn't. Yet I don't believe in Buddha, hate him in fact, his rat-hole temples and his rat-hole religion. Better Jesus. We are going to Australia. Heaven knows why, because it will be cooler and the sea is wide. Ceylon steams heat, and it isn't so much the heat as the chemical decomposition of one's blood by the ultraviolet rays of the sun. Don't know what we'll do in Australia. Don't care. The world of idea may be all alike, but the world of physical feeling is very different. One suffers getting adjusted. But that is part of the adventure. I think Frida feels like me, a bit dazed and indifferent, reckless. I break my heart over England when I am out here. Those natives are back of us, in the living sense lower than we are, but they're going to swarm over us and suffocate us. We have been for 5 centuries, the growing tip. Now we are going to fall. But you don't catch me going back on my whiteness and Englishness and myself. English in the teeth of all the world, even in the teeth of England. How England deliberately undermines England. You should see India. Between Lloyd George and Rufus Isaacs, etc., we are done. You asked me a year ago who won the war. We've all lost it. But why should we bother, since it's their own souls folk have lost? It is strange and fascinating to wander like Virgil in the shades. Don't buy Sea and Sardinia because I shall have to pay Martin Secker for it. He must send it you. It will amuse you. I'm glad the boys are well, and that Herbert Asquith likes reading other people's books. That's better than having to read one's own, and it's much better to be doing something than nothing. I merely translate Giovanni Verga, Sicilian, Mastro Don Gesualdo, and Novelli Rusticane. Very good, to keep myself occupied. If your husband would like to read them, the translations, tell him to ask Curtis Brown. F greets you. D. H. Lawrence. Letter 69. This to Catherine Carswell. Thirroul, South Coast, New South Wales. 22nd June 1922. My dear Catherine, Chamomile came last week, reached me here, the very day that I sent you a copy of the American Aaron's Rod. I have read Chamomile and find it good. Slighter than Open the Door, but better made. Myself, I like that letter diary form, and I like it because of its drift. That one simply must stand out against the social world even if one misses life. Much life they have to offer. Those Indian civil servants are their limit. You should have seen them even in Ceylon. Conceit and imbecility. No, she was well rid of her empty hero and all he stands for. Tin cans. It was sometimes very amusing and really wonderfully well written. I can see touches of Don, not to John, Juan, nor Giovanni, thank goodness, here and there. I hope it will be a success and that it will flourish without being trodden on. If you want to know what it is to feel the correct social fizzle to nothing, you should come to Australia. It is a weird place. In the established sense, it is socially nil. Happy-go-lucky, don't you bother, we're in Australia. But also there seems to be no inside life of any sort, just a long lapse and drift. A rather fascinating indifference, a physical indifference to what we call soul or spirit. It's really a weird show. The country has an extraordinary, hoary, weird attraction. As you get used to it, it seems so old, as if it had missed all this Semite, Egyptian, Indo-European vast era of history, and was Coal Age, the age of great ferns and mosses. It hasn't got a consciousness, just none, too far back. A strange effect it has on one. Often I hate it like poison, then again it fascinates me, and the spell of its indifference gets me. I can't quite explain it. As if one resolved back almost to the plant kingdom, before souls, spirits and minds were grown at all. Only quite a live, energetic body with a weird face. The house is an awfully nice bungalow with one big room and 3 small bedrooms, then kitchen and wash house, and a plot of grass. And a low, bushy cliff, hardly more than a bank, and the sand and the sea. The Pacific is a lovely ocean, but my, how boomingly, crashingly noisy as a rule. Today, for the first time, it only splashes and rushes, instead of exploding and roaring. We bathe by ourselves and run in and stand under the shower bath to wash the very sea water off. The house costs 30 shillings a week, and living about as much as England, only meat cheap. We think of sailing on 10th August via Wellington and Tahiti to San Francisco, land on 4th September. Then we go to Taos. Write to me, care of Mrs. Mabel Dodge Stern, Taos, New Mexico, USA. I'm doing a novel here, half done it. Funny sort of novel where nothing happens and such a lot of things should happen. Seen Australia. Frida loves it here. But Australia would be a lovely country to lose the world in altogether. I'll go round it once more, the world, and if ever I get back here, I'll stay. I hope the boy is well, and Don flourishing, and you as happy as possible. D.H.L. Letter 70. To Catherine Carswell. Taos, New Mexico, USA, 29th September 1922. My dear Catherine, your letter from the Tinner's Arms came last night. I always think Cornwall has a lot to give one, but Zena sounds too much changed. Taos, in its way, is rather thrilling. We have got a very pretty adobe house with furniture made in the village, and Mexican and Navajo rugs, and some lovely pots. It stands just on the edge of the Indian reservation, a brook behind, with trees. In front, the so-called desert, rather like a moor but covered with whitish-grey sagebrush, flowering yellow now. Some 5 miles away, the mountains rise. On the north, we face east, Taos Mountain, the sacred mountain of the Indians, sits massive on the plain some 8 miles away. The pueblo is towards the foot of the mountain, 3 miles off. A big adobe pueblo on each side the brook, like 2 great heaps of earthen boxes, cubes. There the Indians all live together. They are pueblos. These houses were here before the conquest, very old. And they grow grain and have cattle on the lands bordering the brook, which they can irrigate. We drive across these deserts, white sage scrub and dark green pinon scrub on these slopes. On Monday we went up a canyon into the Rockies to a deserted gold mine. The aspens are yellow and lovely. We have a pretty busy time too. I have already learnt to ride one of these Indian ponies with a Mexican saddle. Like it so much. We gallop off to the pueblo or up to one of the canyons. Frida is learning too. Last night the young Indians came down to a dance in the studio with 2 drums, and we all joined in. It is fun and queer. The Indians are much more remote than Negroes. This weekend is the great dance at the pueblo, and the Apaches and Navajos come in wagons and on horseback, and the Mexicans troop to Taos village. Taos village is a Mexican sort of piazza, with trees and shops and horses tied up. It lies 1 mile to the south of us, so 4 miles from the pueblo. We see little of Taos itself. There are some American artists, sort of colony, but not much in contact. The days are hot sunshine, at noon very hot, especially riding home across the open. Night is cold. In winter it snows because we are 7,000 feet above sea level. But as yet one thinks of midsummer. We are about 30 miles from the tiny railway station, but we motored 100 miles from the main line. Well, I'm afraid it will all sound very fascinating if you are just feeling cooped up in London. I don't want you to feel envious. Perhaps it is necessary for me to try these places. Perhaps it is my destiny to know the world. It only excites the outside of me. That's how it is. It is all a form of running away from oneself and the great problems. All this Wild West and the strange Australia, but I try to keep quite clear. One forms not the faintest inward attachment, especially here in America. America lives by a sort of egoistic will, shove and be shoved. Well, one can stand up to that too, but one is quite cold inside. No illusion, I will not shove, and I will not be shoved. Sono io. In the spring, I think I want to come to England, but I feel England has insulted me, and I stomach that bad feeling. Pero son siempre inglesi. Remember, if you were here, you'd only be hardening your heart and stiffening your neck. It is either that or be walked over in America. In my opinion, a gentle life with John Patrick and Don, and a gentle faith in life itself is far better than these women in breeches and riding boots and sombreros, and money and motor cars and Wild West. It is all inwardly a hard stone and nothingness. Only the desert has a fascination, to ride alone, in the sun, in the forever unpossessed country, away from man. That is a great temptation, because one rather hates mankind nowadays. But paciencia, siempre paciencia. I'm learning Spanish slowly too. DHL.